All right, try number 5. I am not striking in well tonight. I keep striking out here. I First of all, forgive me because my voice is not fully healed. Second, this topic just keeps meandering on me, so I might lose my train of thought. But I want to talk a bit about the past. A couple of his posts ago, Ray mentioned that he preferred to read about the past, study the past, and talk about the past because it was static. It wasn't a thing that was dynamically moving in the moment. If we're talking about, say, Gaza right now, that situation is fluid and changing as we speak. While you can always discover something new about the past or make an observation that has been made before, all the events are done and sealed. In the dynamic present, that's not so. But my issue with that focus on just the past is a little bit like Caesar's. Julius Caesar was asked why he didn't read so many books compared to other Roman nobles, and he responded, "Books contain the deeds of great men. I am busy being a great man." And this is a paraphrase of what he said, but that's the general gist. I find myself agreeing with Kaiser on that. It's not that you can't learn from the past. It's not that you shouldn't know it. You should definitely know it, particularly its mistakes, but you should also know things it's proven have withstood the test of time. But you can never live there. And I keep seeing people try. We see it environmentally with people wanting us to go back and eliminate all forms of industry to save the human species. You see it with, on the far edge of that movements like Extinction Agenda, which want us to actually stop populating and let third world countries populate instead, who are more grossly inefficient at spending their resources than we are. Yeah. I never said it was logical. Every time I hear someone talk about wanting to go back to the good old days, I'm like, in the good old days that you're talking about, people died by the time they were 30 or 40. You see it politically with people idolizing the supposed boom and peace of the communist era and completely ignoring the Russian collapse or the horrors going on in China to this day. For the longest time, the thing I held up when people started praising communism was Cuba. Well, we have an embargo on Cuba. Yeah, we do. No one else does. Why is Cuba still a shithole? You also see it religiously. And this is the one that worries me. When you consider that religion in the Western world, in the world in general, but in the Western world in particular, is one of the two pillars holding up the society, that can be quite troubling. To mess with that pillar is to risk causing the roof to come down. But I feel we have to, because what's being held up as being truly religious are images of the past about things we can never know. There's a series of books I read a long time ago called the Earth's Children series by Jane Oyl. It's worth one reading through if you've not read it. When you read it, it will see that the main character, Ayla, is a bit of a Mary Sue. Don't view Ayla as a person, which was not Oyl's intention. View her as a replacement or a stand-in for the progress of humanity through the Neolithic. She represents our journey from the early Paleolithic to the late Neolithic. I think the only thing she ends up not inventing is a bow, if I remember correctly. This is kind of important because what Oyl is doing is showing the human progress and how one progress builds upon another, and how the main human thing isn't only our intellect, but our ability to socially navigate along with others and cooperate with them, even if we're the outsider. Because for much of her life, Ayla is the outsider. There is a bit of woo-woo involved. There's one point where Ayla has a dream vision induced by drugs of the future. She actually sees a modern city complete with the cars. She doesn't know what to call them, but it's cars, the way it's described. an oil trying to get the reader to feel some connection in that scene with people who lived, who we really can't know anything about. Oh, we can find their spears, we can find their arrowheads, but everything else we think we know about them is pretty much conjecture. It's well-informed conjecture, but it's conjecture. And that's not unlike the situation Christians find them in with Jesus. Yeah, here's where I might offend some people. Don't worry, because this also applies to Judaism too. This is the same situation we had with Abraham and Moshe. And I'd even go further. I'd say the same problem that Muslims have with Muhammad, but that one can get you bombed. There is no way to know who Jesus actually was. That's impossible. Fundies will say, well, read the Gospels. Yeah, the Gospels were written, the earliest one, almost 50 years after he died, by people who had never actually met him. Now, if you've ever tried to recount an event from 40 to 50 years ago, like now I have to sometimes, you'll quickly see that your memory can get fuzzy. Things that were important details are gone. You tend to remember more the emotion and the generalities of the event. Well, that's still the truth of it, though. Yeah, not really. Because you're also looking at it from your perspective and what you understood at the time, which is also then at war with what you think about it now over the years as you look back at it, and your feelings about the thing have changed. That is what you have going on in the Gospels. And that's being generous. There's actually a lot of proof that some of the Gospels have been seriously altered or messed with, particularly the Gospel of John. You then also have the issue of the Jesus that people talk about often has beliefs and behaviors that aren't recorded anywhere in the Bible. And that comes from Christian tradition, which is fluid and changing. Whenever I hear Protestants complain about Catholics supposedly worshiping Mary, I point out to them, well, you're the one actually going against Christian practice, because I can prove to you archaeologically, Christians did venerate Mary. A lot. We found the tomb scenes where she's painted on the tombs, or there are prayers with her name in it. This was common. And they don't want to hear that, because it goes against the image they've told themselves of Jesus. You dare bring up something as salacious as he may have been married, or he may have been illiterate, and their eyes will just roll. And because of this, whenever something comes up in modern life that they don't feel matches this past they want to live in, or this past image that they believe they're having to hold themselves up to, they have an adverse psychological reaction. And what do humans normally do when they're presented with information that goes against what they believe? You got it. They fight it. They at least resent the information being valid, if not get aggressive. I was working at Books A Million back when the ossuary was found. Matt may remember this. We talked about it a lot at the time. It was actually shortly after we met, if I remember correctly, too. Probably about 3 to 3.5 years after we first met. When the ossuary was discovered, I had a very devout Christian coworker who was trying to use it as a club to get me to convert. See, here's proof the New Testament is correct. No. All the ossuary says is that this is James, the brother of Jesus, which in Hebrew would be James, the brother of Joshua. How many Joshuas and Jameses do you think are running around the Levantine in the first century? Yeah. I also had to point out to him, it's also kind of telling that there's no ossuary mentioned in the biblical account that Jesus' body went into. And boy, did he get mad at me. Bring up the whole idea of the dead body being anointed by spices and oils isn't necessarily Jewish. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, just means that there's something weird going on, something definitely heterodox. And he's like, no, no, no. This was something the Jewish wife was supposed to do. Oh, so you're being Mary Magdalene as his wife then, are you? Yeah, he did not. He did not deal with that well. But that's what we do. And it concerns me because now you're starting to see some things happen politically because of this. Way, way back, when the Israelis first started their Operation Gaza, I remember saying their plan is to annex it. And I was told I was being an alarmist. Have you seen Trump's plan lately? Who do you think is going to end up owning it? What's going to happen is he's going to bring in whatever foreign investors he brings in to initially build up the place, and they're going to sell it to the Israelis. The Israelis may not own it on paper, but they're going to own it. That is what's going to happen. And the worst part about this is that it's given ammunition to the progressive left. See, we told you, ethnic cleansing. Yeah, now they got a point. Now they got a point, don't they? But make no mistake, where are the Palestinians there? For the same glorious past. The Israelis that want this, I'd say most of the modern Israelis just want safety, but there is a faction of Israel that wants the whole greater Israel thing. A past they're really never going to achieve. They don't have the manpower for it. The Palestinians are there for the same kind of past dream, too. They're looking at going back before World War I. That's not going to happen. Even if they were to attain it and take out Israel, do you really think that Lebanon, what is now Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, are going to be content to let that land be another independent nation they have to deal with, or do you think they're going to come in and gobble up parts of it too? Damn right they're going to come in and gobble up parts of it too. They all used to partially own it and have a stake in it. Egypt would love to have that coastline. Jordan would love to have that land west of the river. Because of this love of the past and what it once was, we allow it to color our present. We allow it to change our politics. We allow it to limit us. Let me take Trump plans for a moment for Gaza and spin it the way the people that are for it are spinning it. Let's say I'm your average Palestinian. Trump has offered me a huge bankroll to leave. If I were a completely secular person, I had no religious motivation or ethnic reason to stay, why would I stay someplace that's a constant bombed area, that's constantly in conflict, and has a government that constantly antagonizes its next door neighbor? Why not pack up my family, go to some other Middle Eastern country that's more to my liking, say like, I don't know, Egypt, with that bankroll, invest in the right businesses and make a mint? Let me tell you, as much as I love Florida right now, if someone came up to me and went, here's $2 million for you to move to New Orleans, damn right I'm doing it. Damn right I'm doing it. Incidentally, that's a thing to put out there into the universe in case anybody knows somebody wants to pay me $2 million to move to New Orleans. But that's not going to happen to the Palestinians because they have that love of the past. They want to bring it back. They want to bring back the romance. Look, I love Arthurian romance too. But there's no way I want England's method of choosing its king and its ruler to be pulling a sword out of a pond from some moistened bink. Strange aquatic rituals with women of dubious character is no basis for a system of government. And likewise, a look of your religious figure who you're trying to be, who you're trying to emulate, when you don't really know anything about them, that is probably not the best thing either. You hear Protestants talk a lot about the relationship with Jesus. Okay. How can that relationship be anything other than the one that's in your head? And that's colored by what you don't understand of the person you're claiming to have this relationship with. This is another reason why I think that Protestants could actually read their Bibles and read it honestly. A lot more of them become Catholics, Orthodox, or Copts. The typical Orthodox/Catholic take on this has been, yeah, we have a relationship with Jesus, but it's not a relationship like you have with somebody else, and to call it that or try to relate that way is kind of idolatry. You know how many times I've seen some fundy look up at the sky and say, "Oh Lord, tell me what to do," and he means it? He's expecting an audible answer, or at least some internal knowing. If I were God, I would slap that boy chick on both sides of his cheek and say, "Speak proper Hebrew when you talk to your daddy." But that's what they want. They want the ideal. It makes them feel comforted. It makes them feel secure. And I get it. I'm a writer. I get it. When your story comes together and it has purpose and it's all pat and everything's nice, it's a good feeling. But I'm also a writer, and I know the most exciting two words are, sorry, I should say the most exciting three words are, what happens next? Sadly, most evangelicals and fundies aren't with me. And I fear they're going to turn some laws back in the United States because of it. I would not be shocked if in 2 to 3 years you see no-fault divorce up on the chopping block. Because fundies and evangelicals really hate that. They would love to do it to gay marriage, but they already know if they go to the court for the next 10 years, that's not going to fly. Because as conservative as the justices on the court are, they're also very strict constructionists from the look of it. They all would be like, no. But remember that White House Office of Faith thing I was reading? Yeah. You think they're really going to care about some Satanists being discriminated against? No. I dare say they don't even care about any Jews or Muslims being discriminated against. They want that past, that 1950s Protestant dream of the husband works 9 to 5, the wife stays at home barefoot and pregnant. And they think that was the ideal way to live, but they're ignoring all the things that went along with that were not ideal. Like how many women forced into that by culture and by the people around them. Should have been rocket scientists. Should have been doctors. That's what I see happening right now, and that's what's troubling me tonight. And this is probably the best this point has come out, so I'm going to cut the recording there. From here, I have to render it to my laptop and then put it up as a video because I can't send it through the thread. You'll have to look at it through the video link. And that may inconvenience some of you, but that's what I got to do because I can't do the 10-minute things anymore in this model. Anyway, I will see you all later. Be well.